Hi everyone, we wanted to provide an update as new information has come out for the latest outlook for fall/winter 2020-2021. Also wanted to provide a quick update of the record hot summer that we experienced here in Southern California. This is Alex Tardy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Thanks for joining. All right, a quick recap of last year, 2019-2020. It was a wet year, especially in Southern California, as shown in the green, blue, and purple shades. A lot of areas were 1.5 times as much precipitation compared to average. Northern and Central California, a different story. A lot of places in Northern California were only 50% or less of the total normal rainfall for the season. There's been a lot of extremes across the region. Here are some of them. We're going to talk about June through October 2020. Remarkable heat across California and even Southern California. But there's been other events as shown here on this list. Cold events, hot events, wet and dry. Speaking of the heat events, 14 different heat waves. They are listed here. We're going to talk about some of the statistics that came out of these numerous heat waves across Southern California during the summer of 2020. Part of the impact from the heat was the wildfires. Across the state of California, over 4 million acres were burned, but we also had an active fire season in Southern California, and it remains to be seen on the mud and debris flow potential on some of those fire scars, particularly the El Dorado and the Apple Fire as we go into winter 2020-2021. So what has been going on over the past year or so? Well, since November 2019, we've seen this persistent storm track coming down from the north. It's been beneficial for Southern California, as you saw last winter, but not so for Northern California. This persistent weather pattern has been blocked by an upper level ridge of high pressure, a dome of hot air. That dome of hot air is also translated to very warm, much above average sea surface temperatures persistently over the eastern and northern Pacific Ocean. This is unrelated to El Nino or La Nina. So this particular storm track has not gone away. Okay, how did the weather pattern evolve during the summer, the record hot summer of 2020? Well, the same upper level high pressure shifted further west. And the normal four corners, or the desert upper level high pressure that results from days and days of desert heat and rising warm air, that centered over California directly. So we went from conditions supportive of warm weather across Northern California and dry weather to conditions supportive of hot, downright record-breaking hot weather. And not just for 1 week or 1 month. This was persistent over our region, July through October. So we had a significant weather pattern shift. Normally, this is shifted further to the east, much further to the east, over the Four Corners, Colorado area. This past summer, directly over us. What did this result in? Well, very warm conditions as shown here. Temperatures widespread from just looking at a period mid-June through mid-October. 120-day period, temperatures were several degrees above average. If you notice, the desert areas were most extreme, not because they were hot, but compared to even average, much above. That included our mountains and our desert areas. On the right-hand side, precipitation. Well, yellow shaded is where we normally don't see much precipitation during the summer months. The orange and red shaded, those are areas that should have received significant precipitation from thunderstorms in the monsoon, and they did not. It was record dry in some of those darker red shaded areas, which includes our mountains and deserts. So how hot was it between the period June through October 2020? This map shows clearly across most of California, including desert areas, valleys, mountains, and even coastal. It was the warmest on record in the deep red shaded areas. Now, after that, in the orange shaded, which covers Nevada and all the rest of California, it was easily in the top 10% of hottest periods between June and October. When we look recently in the month of October, now that we're in November, we can see the trend continued. Very warm, record-breaking warm, especially across California in the dark red shaded areas on the right-hand side compared to average. And also bone dry for the month of October. So the summer really carried right in all the way through October. Now let's look at the summer from June through October. It was the record warmest on record for coastal Southern California. That includes LA, Riverside, San Diego, all combined together. The valleys, the mountains, and the immediate coast. We have not seen a time warmer than what we saw in 2020, between June and October. If we look at the entire state of California, the same answer comes out. The warmest on record between June and October 2020. If we look at some of the individual heat waves in Southern California, courtesy of Scripps UC San Diego, not only did we have numerous heat waves all throughout the summer from May through October, we also had exceptional daytime heat, greater than 99 percentile. That is remarkable. Those days are shown in the asterisk here for our climate zone. Let's look at individual locations, if that helps determine how severe it was. Escondido, California, June through October, the #1 hottest period. Idlewild, I picked a mountain location with very good records historically in the heart of our region of Southern California in Riverside County. #1, warmest between June through October. If we look closer to the coast, Orange County, Santa Ana, was not #1, because if you remember, San Diego and Orange County had record hot years of 2014 and 15, as listed here. But it was close. 2020 was close to 2018, close to 2017. You get the theme. 2020 came in third place for Santa Ana. What about Palm Springs? We talk about the desert being hot. It was way more than hot because it was a desert or it was summer. Record-breaking hottest ever for Palm Springs, California, between the period June through October 2020. This has been an impact to our fuel moisture, our vegetation, and our fire weather danger in Southern California. Never have we seen a time where fuel conditions were drier than record lows. The blue trace on the right-hand side shows between August and October, we were well below the all-time record lows. Recent rainfall allowed that curve to finally come up, but we're not recovered completely. We need to remember that we are still in the heart of Santa Ana season. November and December are actually the heart of the season for Santa Ana wind events. For the frequency of having a Santa Ana wind, it is most common in November and especially December. When we don't have enough rainfall, it is a critical period because of the dry conditions. Are we still in fire season? And the short answer is yes. The latest outlook for December 2020 shown here is that Southern California remains above average for especially wind-driven fires. And those would be likely fires in a Santa Ana wind event. So we still need more rainfall in our region to be out of the fire danger. Now, what's going on in our ocean with La Nina and El Nino? Well, clearly along the Equatorial-Pacific Ocean where we monitor that, La Nina is forming and has formed. It will continue to be a player and continue to grow along that region. Elsewhere in the Pacific, unusually warm conditions because of that weather pattern we talked about earlier. So El Nino, La Nina continue to do their thing. This winter, 2020-2021, is the La Nina, the cold phase along the equator. How does that normally impact our weather? Well, typically it does impact the jet stream, similar to how El Nino, the warm phase, does. But typically what we see in a La Nina winter is the jet stream stays more to our north. It does tend to be amplified, a lot like what it's been over the past 12 to 18 months. So it does have the ability to tap into some cold air across Western Canada. But overall, it ends up being drier or near average in much of Southern California, but beneficial wetter than average for the most part in far Northern California and the Pacific Northwest, where more storms occur in a La Nina pattern. It doesn't mean we have weaker storms in Southern California, it just means we typically have less storms. Now, this is the easy part here. When you look at all the La Nina winters historically, dating all the way back to 1950, you can see the tendency and the general consensus is wet in the Northwest and a little bit on the dry side in Southern California. So that is the La Nina pattern. When you put it all together and average it, it is useful, but it's not the whole story. One caveat that is significant is despite different years having La Nina or El Nino, on the left-hand side, 2 of those years occurred recently. Both were very wet. Both had flooding in Southern California. In fact, 2016-17 ended the drought of Northern California. That was one of the wettest years on record for that part of Northern California. Now, on the other hand, La Nina has resulted in very dry conditions. In fact, 2017-18 was the driest on record for some areas of Southern California. It's also important to remember that individual weather events like December 2010 occurred in a La Nina season, moderate La Nina season, and it was a very wet and very strong atmospheric river event that impacted Southern California. That was December 2010. When's the next chance of rain? Well, we look at the computer models and they give us a clue as what might happen in the next few weeks. On the left-hand side, it looks like a weak weather disturbance for Thanksgiving, and white shaded in Southern California means maybe some light precipitation. But then when we look further out into early December, we see it does expect wet conditions potentially developing in Central and Northern California, and some of that might clip Southern California. Now, when we look further out in December, we see that similar weather pattern remaining very La Nina-like, far Northern California, the Pacific Northwest staying wet, and we see these dry anomalies for drier than normal conditions into December for much of Central Southern California. Now here's the latest outlook for the period December 5 through 18, 2020, issued by the Climate Prediction Center. It is calling for drier than average conditions across much of California and milder or warmer than average with lack of storms. This doesn't mean no precipitation because remember, December is a wet month. But the confidence for average or wetter than average conditions is mainly focused across the Pacific Northwest, well north of our region as shown here. Now for the whole month of December, the latest outlook just issued calls for a similar flavor with wet conditions in the main storm track staying over the Pacific Northwest. Some of those storms impacting Central and Northern California, but overall for the entire month being drier in Southern California. Remember, December is typically a very wet month across the state. Overall, with temperatures due to the lack of storms and lack of precipitation, milder than average for at least Southern California. The latest outlook for the core of the winter, December through February, that also shows the main storm track staying well to our north. It doesn't mean we won't see any precipitation, and some storms may be heavy. However, overall, between that 3-month period in the heart of our winter, confidence is for drier than average conditions. So less storms, not necessarily weaker, but less storms. And because of that, we also see warmer than average conditions, mild conditions expected across much of Southern California, with confidence even higher for the desert Southwest into Texas as shown here. Unfortunately, this does mean expansion of drought is likely across Southern California as shown in the yellow shaded here. Here are the summary notes. We had very little monsoon activity in our deserts. Dry summer. We had ultimately the hottest summer on record between June and October. Now, despite having a wet year in 2019-2020, fire conditions were extreme. And we attribute that largely to the 14 heat waves and the record hot conditions across Southern California. We also saw record hot sea surface temperatures, if you remember back in August 2020. Unfortunately, numerous fires did break out, and we are still in the midst of fire season, even though it is less of a threat. We are still in the heart of fire season because of Santa Ana season peaking out in December on average. We've already had 6 different Santa Ana wind events. One of those was really strong in late October. So more Santa Ana wind events are expected late November and into early December. The outlook does call for warmer conditions as we go from the fall all the way through the middle of the winter. Now, November should see some active storms going into December for Northern California, but Southern California appears will be on the drier side of those storms and also the milder conditions. An active storm track could develop in early December, but it still looks to stay to our north. We are entering a moderate La Nina, that's the cold phase on equatorial Pacific Ocean for 2021-21. So partially the forecast is driven on La Nina and also partially on the trends we've been seeing, not just this summer, but over the past 12 to 18 months. So when it comes to short-term weather, make sure you check out the latest conditions at weather.gov San Diego. That's where we'll post all of the latest hazards, watches, and warnings on a map like this with different color shading as well. You can also track the different burn scars across the state and also load in real-time weather observations, thousands of real-time weather stations, and plot them all on this particular map. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and be safe for the holidays.